We're all off to a good start on this fine Wednesday. Give me a minute to get the Instagram going here, and we're going to launch into something really interesting today. I think pretty much everybody's going to find this interesting. There we go. So let's see who pops on today to learn about this, because I feel like this is going to be one of those things that opens a door for people to explore more, and hopefully, at least for one of you, open the door to changing your mindset and opening up your life. Good morning, Barb. You're the first one here today. Welcome, welcome. And Abigail is right behind you. Good morning. Glad you guys are here. But I have had this book sitting in one of my many stacks for quite some time and have heard positive things about it over the years from a variety of people, mostly people of a more academic bent. Good morning, Gwen. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But what I love about this book is it's another one of those that's written in a very consumable way. Yes, it's research and whatever, but it's very consumable for your average reader who maybe doesn't have a PhD. So it reminds me of Brene Brown's stuff, and it reminds me of Chip and Dan Heath's stuff, where it's just very easy to understand and to apply to your own life. So I'm hoping to get us all started on this little path of exploring what is our mindset, and is it benefiting us or is it holding us back? And would we like to make some changes to it, perhaps? And today is a great day to do that because it's eclipse day. This is the first eclipse that's going to set off a series of eclipses. And the way I've come to look at eclipses is they're like a magic reset button for the universe. So we are getting a reset today. And in the United States, I don't think we're going to notice much. It sounds more like Iceland, Norway. Those are the areas that are really going to see this eclipse. It's a solar eclipse. So the moon moves in front of the sun. Good morning, Nancy. Glad you are here. But again, the energy, we're still likely to feel that energy of rebooting, turning the switch off and then turning it back on. So setting an intention today for this reboot would be really good. So my intention for this reboot is to step more into the stuff that this book is going to talk about, a willingness to learn and make mistakes and grow and keep going and letting go of. Good morning, Beth. Glad you are here. Letting go of what are people going to think? Will I be a failure if I screw this up? Blah, blah, blah. All that junk we get hung up in. So Jonelle must be very busy this week. She hasn't popped on as much this week as typical. So I'm not sure what she's up to, or maybe YouTube is giving her fits again. We'll see if she shows up on Facebook. Anywho, the name of the book is Mindset, A New Psychology for Success, How We Can Learn to Fulfill Our Potential. And then it talks about areas to consider: parenting, business, school, and relationships. There she is. I was just saying, you haven't been as present this week, and I didn't know if YouTube was giving you fits or what the deal is. And obviously here you are on Facebook. So we'll see. We'll see what the story is. Inquiring minds want to know. So this book is by Carol Dweck, who's a PhD. She's a researcher, and there's some really interesting stuff in here. So probably what I'm going to do, good morning, Betty. Welcome, welcome. Glad you are here. What I'm probably going to do is start at the beginning and read some stuff and throw my 2 cents worth in here and there, but also moving Leslie. There we go. That I knew there was something going on that was making things difficult. I gotta turn my fan here. I am too hot. So, and yesterday I started at the Y. The woman, Donna, who walked me through all of the machines, what a love. What a love. She is my size, my height, about my size, and was coming back from a knee injury. So she was very well aware of reining me in when I was wanting to do too much and pushing me a little bit when it would be good to do more. So today I feel good. I didn't overdo. Yay me. So, and of course, isn't this interesting? Right as I start, okay, I'm going to see if I can manage to get there 2 or 3 days a week. And I've got them written in my calendar, which always makes it much more likely it's going to happen. They're going to be closed for a thorough cleaning from top to bottom. So there's 5 other Ys in the area I can go to, or I can do some of the other stuff I've been doing in the interim. But what I love about this place, so we were in the wellness center with all the weightlifters and the skinny little people in tight gym clothing. And then there's the 80-plus-year-olds walking around with their canes doing machines. And I'm like, yeah, this is my place. These are my people. So lots of, she said, when you come at 10 o'clock in the morning, and even though it's summer, there were a lot of kids around. But once school starts again, good morning, Debbie. Glad you are here. She said it's mostly people who are retired. So looking forward to getting into a routine with that and seeing how that goes. So I'm just proud that I went, proud that I learned about the machines, and really, most of them have not changed a whole lot in 20 years. There's some bells and whistles that, I mean, what I'm excited about are the ones where, and most of them have the same screen. It's the same company that makes the different machines, but it's the same screen. So when you're doing the cardio stuff, you can be hiking a mountain in Hawaii. You can be driving down a roadway in wherever. It's like, oh, this will keep me entertained. Usually I people watch, which I will do as well, but it was interesting. So back to the book. Let's start with some tapping and some breath just to maintain our continuity and cue our minds. Okay, we're ready to open up and learn some things and be present. So breathing in through the nose, out through the mouth, in through the nose, out through the mouth, a little longer in through the nose, out through the mouth. Exhaling everything, getting all that old stale air out of your lungs, in through the nose, out through the mouth. Now I want you to notice, do you feel lightheaded at all? If so, it means you're not breathing deeply enough during the day. So just practice. Maybe you set a couple of alarms on your phone, and when it goes off and you go, now why did I set that? Hopefully you remember the reason you set it was to check in with your breathing. Breathe in. Breathe out. Yes, we're going to do a little Carol Dweck. Breathe in. Breathe out. And one more for the road. Breathe in. Breathe out. And like I said, one of the reasons I love this book is it's very consumable. So if you're going, well, I don't have a damn PhD, don't worry about it. Does not matter. It's written for those of us who just like to read. Just like to read. So I'm going to start at the beginning and just read some stuff and see what comes to mind that I want to say to you. And then I'll leave you with a challenge, because why not, right? You've got a whole day ahead of you that gives opportunity, a gift, something you can do something with. So this is her introduction. One day, my students sat me down and ordered me to write this book. I mean, we're off to a great start already, are we not? They wanted people to be able to use our work to make their lives better. It was something I'd wanted to do for a long time, but now it became my #1 priority. My work is part of a tradition in psychology that shows the power of people's beliefs. What's my favorite word? Yeah. And we will come to learn we can change our beliefs. We absolutely can change our beliefs. These may be beliefs we're aware of or unaware of. Again, things operate on the subconscious. And that's one of the reasons why I think the energy work that people do, myself included, is so helpful for people, because it bypasses your conscious mind and dives to that subconscious mind that really needs the shift. These beliefs strongly affect what we want and whether we succeed in getting it. This tradition also shows how changing people's beliefs, even the simplest beliefs, can have profound effects. In this book, you'll learn how a simple belief about yourself, a belief we discovered in our research, guides a large part of your life. In fact, it permeates every part of your life. Much of what you think of as your personality actually grows out of this mindset. Much of what may be preventing you from fulfilling your potential grows out of it as well. No book has ever explained this mindset and shown people how to make use of it in their lives. Suddenly, you'll understand the greats in the sciences and arts, in sports and in business, and the would have beens. And already she's taken two people to task for their unhealthy mindset that actually limited them and led to some significant hangups in their life. So it's Lee Iacocca and John McEnroe. Yeah, interesting stuff. You'll understand your mate, your boss, your friends, your kids. You'll see how to unleash your power and your children's. It is my privilege to share my findings with you. Besides accounts from people in my research, I filled each chapter with stories, both ripped from the headlines and based on my own life and experience, so you can see the mindset in action. In most cases, the names have been changed to preserve anonymity. In some cases, several people have been condensed into one to make a clearer point. A number of these exchanges are recreated from memory, and I have rendered them to the best of my ability. Then she talks about grammar, which is kind of funny. This is an updated edition. And then she's thanking people. And now we're going to jump in. So she says in chapter 1, when I was a young researcher just starting out, something happened that changed my life. How's that for a great beginning? I was obsessed with understanding how people cope with failure. And I decided to study it by watching how students grapple with hard problems. So I brought children one at a time to a room in their school, made them comfortable, and then gave them a series of puzzles to solve. The first ones were fairly easy, but the next ones were hard. As the students grunted, perspired, and toiled, I watched their strategies and probed what they were thinking and feeling. I expected differences among children in how they coped with the difficulty, but I saw something I never expected. Confronted with the hard puzzles, one 10-year-old boy pulled up his chair, rubbed his hands together, smacked his lips, and cried out, "I love a challenge." Another, sweating away on these puzzles, looked up with a pleased expression and said with authority, "You know, I was hoping this would be informative." I love kids. I just love kids. What's wrong with them, I wondered. I always thought you coped with failure or you didn't cope with failure. I never thought anyone loved failure. Were these alien kids or were they onto something? Everyone has a role model, someone who pointed the way at a critical moment in their lives. These children were my role models. They obviously knew something I didn't, and I was determined to figure it out, to understand the kind of mindset that could turn failure into a gift. Think about that. What's your reaction to failure? I oftentimes on the front end am concerned about failure. What will people think? Blah, blah, blah. But I also have that part of me that pushes me to do it anyway, the do it anyway part. The don't think, just do it. That was my mantra for years. Don't think, just do it. Don't think, just do it. It has served me well. But still, there's that underlying part of me that I'm trying to override, which is the fixed mindset that she's talking about here. What did they know? They knew that human qualities such as intellectual skills could be cultivated. And that's what they were doing, getting smarter. So the failures were helping them get smarter. They're working on strategy. They're figuring something out. Thank you, Gwen, for posting that. I appreciate it. Not only were they not discouraged by failure, they didn't even think they were failing. They thought they were learning. Think about the implications of this for school, for a classroom. Wow. Think about the implications of this as you're trying to teach your children, grandchildren, great grandchildren, etc. Wow. Yep. I, on the other hand, thought human qualities were carved in stone. You were smart or you weren't, and failure meant you weren't. It was that simple. If you could arrange successes and avoid failures at all costs, you could stay smart. Struggles, mistakes, perseverance were just not part of this picture. And I will tell you, I believed that I was not as smart as my next sister down, Vicky, because she would hide in her bedroom and do her homework. So I didn't see her struggling. I, on the other hand, was forced to sit at the kitchen table and do it with mom because otherwise I wasn't going to do it. I didn't care. Vicky was very much a scholar, still is. And so I assumed she was the smart one and I was the dumb one, right? It took until probably college for me to figure out, hey, I guess I'm not so dumb. And in fact, the funniest story is the only reason I went to college was because my boyfriend dumped me. Yeah. And Vicki and I have talked about this since. How is it that we're 18 months apart? We're raised in the same family, same parents, many of the same teachers, blah, blah. And I never got the message about going to college. And she always knew she was going to college. Just so strange, just so strange. But yes, my boyfriend dumping me, I eventually ended up marrying him. Really, Bonnie? Anyway, learned a lot. When he dumped me, it was like, okay, I'm 18, I'm dumped, my life is over, as only an 18-year-old can do, right? And so I decided, well, she's going to college, I might as well go to college with her. What the hell? So then he comes slinking back and wants to date me again. And I said, well, that's fine, but I'm going to college. And on we go. Yeah, life is strange. Okay, so let's see. She says, whether human qualities are things that can be cultivated or things that are carved in stone is an old issue. What these beliefs mean for you is a new one. What are the consequences of thinking that your intelligence or personality is something you can develop as opposed to something that is a fixed, deep-seated trait? Let's look first in on the age-old, fiercely waged debate about human nature, and then return to the question of what these beliefs mean to you. So I'm going to jump around a little bit. She's talking about personality tests. And that's interesting because when we were taught to administer personality tests, the gist really was you're measuring like a fixed thing. This kid is smart, this kid is not smart, blah, blah, blah. Yet at the same time, we would say things like, over time, kids can start to look smarter because they're taking the same test over and over. Let's say it's a child with disabilities. Oftentimes, they would be tested annually in order to get funding. And so obviously, they then over time have learned some of the tests that we use. So they could, but we didn't seem to put 2 and 2 together that, wait a minute, they're learning. So it looks like they're getting smarter. Yeah. She's figuring this out. She's doing a great job. All right, so the IQ test was meant to summarize, it says, wasn't the IQ test meant to summarize children's unchangeable intelligence? In fact, no. Binet, a Frenchman, is Alfred Binet, a Frenchman working in Paris in the early 20th century, designed this test to identify children who were not profiting from the Paris public schools so that new educational programs could be designed to get them back on track. Without denying individual differences in children's intellects, he believed that education and practice could bring about functional changes in intelligence. He says, a few modern philosophers assert that an individual's intelligence is a fixed quantity, a quantity that cannot be increased. We must protest and react against this brutal pessimism. With practice, training, and above all, method, we manage to increase our attention, our memory, our judgment, and literally to become more intelligent than we were before. So now I want to find the part where it's talking about the fixed versus, yep, okay, here. It's one thing to have pundits spouting their opinions about scientific issues. It's another thing to understand how these views apply to you. For 30 years, my research has shown that the view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. Good morning, Mary. Glad you're here. So we're going to pause for a moment on that. My research has shown that the view you adopt for yourself profoundly affects the way you lead your life. It can determine whether you become the person you want to be and whether you accomplish the things you value. How does this happen? How can a simple belief have the power to transform your psychology and, as a result, your life? Believing that your qualities are carved in stone, that's called the fixed mindset, creates an urgency to prove yourself over and over. And if you have only a certain amount of intelligence, a certain personality, and a certain moral character, well, then you'd better prove that you have a healthy dose of them. It simply wouldn't do to look or feel deficient in these most basic characteristics. And the person who believes that, once they experience a failure, they believe they are a failure. That's a very different thing than, well, I screwed that up. What can I learn from that? I'll try it this time, this way the next time. That's a whole different mindset, right? So she talks about her teacher and how her teacher set them up to have a fixed mindset. She said, I've seen so many people with this one consuming goal of proving themselves in the classroom, in their careers, and in their relationships. And if you know that person, I was and sometimes am that person, it can be very irritating to others. The know-it-all, the show-off, the person who isn't willing to try something for fear of failing, right? She says, every situation calls for a confirmation of their intelligence, personality, or character. Every situation is evaluated with these questions. Will I succeed or fail? Will I look smart or dumb? Will I be accepted or rejected? Will I feel like a winner or a loser? Excuse me, still have the cough. There's another mindset in which these traits are not simply a hand you're dealt, excuse me, and have to live with. Always trying to convince yourself and others that you have a royal flush when you're secretly worried it's a pair of tens. In this mindset, the hand you're dealt is just the starting point for development. This growth mindset is based on the belief that your basic qualities are things that you can cultivate through your efforts, your strategies, and help from others. Although people differ in every which way in their initial talents, aptitudes, interests, or temperaments, everyone can change and grow through application and experience. Love this, love this, love this. She says, did you know that Darwin and Tolstoy were considered ordinary children? That Ben Hogan, one of the greatest golfers of all time, was completely uncoordinated and graceless as a child. We can think of thousands of examples of this. But we didn't allow that to penetrate our skulls and say, wait a minute here. They changed. What we would have initially ascribed to them as fixed qualities, he's uncoordinated, changed. He became one of the best golfers there is. So what is this? Goodness. So I think I'll stop there. But what I'm wanting this to do is A, pique your curiosity about getting the book yourself. Good morning, Shelley. Glad you are here. Welcome, welcome. So I want it to pique your curiosity. If you can get yourself a copy of the book, because we're going to be spending some time here, okay? Mindset, Carol Dweck. But the second thing I want you to ask yourself, and we'll get to that. Maybe that'll be tomorrow's part. How do I know if I have a fixed mindset or a growth-oriented mindset? How do I know? So we'll figure that out tomorrow. And if your toes are kind of curling in your shoes and you're going, oh, I bet I'm going to be one of those fixed people, don't worry about it. I am, or was. I've become much more flexible over time and much more. Can you see the implications for, I can't remember what the statistic is, but how many people have not read a book in the last year? It's horrifying. Horrifying. How many of those people believe that they're fixed? Believe they can't grow, they can't learn, they can't become smarter, right? I'll bet there's a fair number there. On the other hand, the lifelong learners among us believe I can learn more, I can grow, I can get better at things. So again, this belief about yourself can have a tremendous impact on how you conduct your life. So there's little things that to me would tell me someone is interested in that growth perspective. Do you have a library card? If you have a library card, that would be one thing that would suggest that you have that growth. Do you go out to things? Do you go to lectures? Do you go to class? Do you take classes? Do you do stuff that's out of your realm? Those would all be signs that you're a growth-oriented thinker. And again, if you find that you're the fixed thinker, do not beat yourself up because it's changeable. It's changeable. So we'll keep piddling around with this. Sometimes there may be some cards that we do in between, whatever, but I think this is going to be our next book that we work our way through. And what I'm hoping to create for all of us are some ahas. Yes. Yes, that's useful, but also go to the part of bringing information in. So view yourself as a switching station, bringing information in, moving information out, bringing information in, moving information out. And what's happening in here is change and shift and growth, etc. So I challenge us all. First, I'm going to challenge us all. Get the book. Get the book. And if you're like me, you want the paper book so that you can mess around with it. I like books. But if you're one of those people who likes to read on a Kindle, go for it. Go for it. Just get the book. And let's have some conversation about this. And let's move ourselves as a collective forward in terms of overcoming the obstacles that we have created for it. I can't learn that. I'm too old. I'm too this. I'm not enough of that. Blah, blah, blah. All the crap we tell ourselves. And let's open ourselves up to some massive growth here. Have an awesome day. We'll see you again tomorrow. Remember, you're capable of far more than you think you are. Bye-bye.